Are you a fan of the finer things in life? Well, of course you are. You're listening to my voice right now. I have some good news for you. If you're a fan of high-class, delicious Italian coffee, I have a promo code for you. If you check out Lorenzotti Coffee at lorenzotti.coffee and use the promo code The Mad Ones, you can get 10% off their fantastic beans. So join us, lorenzotti.coffee, promo code The Mad Ones. You are watching an MLGA Network live broadcast. The only people for me are the Mad Ones.
The world is filled with the boring and the barely conscious.
The misery loves company.
But we don't have to live this way.
Jessica and I are here to talk to those the system rejects, to radicals and thought criminals.
The ones who never yawn or say a commonplace thing, but push the boundaries of acceptable discourse.
Those who stare reality in the face and dare it to be different.
History isn't made by the timid, and fun is not had by the perpetually afraid.
We are the Mad Ones.
So let's get to it.
Welcome to the Mad Ones. I'm your totally modeling my own merch, stunning show tank top host, Cam Harless. And with me as always is your maybe small but can 100% kick your ass and make you feel bad for it hostess, Miss Jessica Green. How are you doing, Jessica?
I'm fine. You're gonna get me into fights though.
That is all I want out of this life, is to get you into fights. But tonight we have a pretty fun guest. We're joined by it's a face you may know if you've been in the Libertyverse for very long. A classy lady that spits hot fire at the left and the right while wearing pearls. The editor-in-chief of the Anti-Media, YouTube extraordinaire, purveyor of peace, hope, and love. Your favorite dangerous right-wing extremist, Miss Carey Wedler.
Hi.
How are you doing?
Oh, you just made me nostalgic calling me the editor-in-chief of the Anti-Media.
I will are you
always
not anymore?
Be. Oh, no, I'm going to be forever. I refuse to drop the title, but we were banned 3 years ago, and we don't make original content anymore.
Oh.
But I refuse. That's still my public email, so I'm never dropping it.
It's a really great name because, the corporate press is the enemy of the people, and being anti-media is actually very important at this point. I did watch the last 5 or 7 of your videos just in preparation for talking to you today. And I told you this before, but I'm going to tell you again, that especially the last one, the gun control one, you just spit hot fire.
Thank you.
And I was like, I am very impressed by this. So I appreciate you coming on, even though the anti-media has been shut down.
Thank you for having me.
What was the reason they shut Anti-Media down? What was the stated reason? Of course,
and let me think. So on Facebook, it happened, I want to say 11 a.m. on a Thursday. And we got a notice saying that our page had been unpublished. It was something about, it's in a video. If you wanted to look at my YouTube, because I might misquote it because it's been years. And honestly, I try to not think about it now.
Fair enough.
But,
sorry.
Oh, no. It's totally fine. It's fine to talk about. I just can't remember the exact reasoning because it wasn't, it was something about, the issue was with, if I remember correctly, they claimed it had something to do with our sharing practices. So we were partner with a page called the Free Thought Project. They're still around. I'm sure everyone knows Free Thought Project. Yeah, Police the Police. We would partner with them and we'd share each other's posts. And to my knowledge, that was sort of the basis. They were saying it was inauthentic behavior, even though that's what major mainstream pages did as well. Not like CNN, but pages that parrot mainstream narratives. So it wasn't like we're the only people doing it, but we appealed. They never responded to our appeal. And the weird thing too is they had, this is what's so strange. They had assigned us a representative at Facebook. There was a Facebook employee who was in charge of helping us boost our reach because they'd killed us with algorithms. So then they swoop in, they're like, oh, let's help you get some more reach. Here's some free ad space. They gave us hundreds of dollars in free ad space in September. And then October, they banned us. And then several hours later in the afternoon, they banned us on Twitter as well. And that I didn't get the email notice for anti-media. My personal page was banned, and it literally said specifically for, and it was blank. Like there was no reason. And then they denied the appeal. And then the reason was like, you can't manipulate user experiences on Twitter, which is ridiculous because I barely even post now. Twitter stresses me out, honestly. I just rejoined and I'm like, I don't think I can do this. So it was all ridiculous. And none of it was justified in any way that I can tell. But obviously we never got our pages back. And that was between Free Thought Project and Police and Anti-Media. We had probably 7 million followers, 7 million followers. Like we had actual reach, and surprise, surprise, we got banned. So it's been a long recovery.
I remember those pages being taken down and being like shocked that it was so blatant. There was no like, it wasn't as though you guys were doing anything like nefarious. You were just getting information out that the regular media wasn't posting. Right. And it was shocking.
Yeah. And even things that you would think the left would be fine with, a page called Police the Police, right. A page called Hemp was banned. Like, okay, right. I don't, and I can never prove anything. I don't know who was behind it. I know that shortly after the 2016 election, or possibly right before the midterms, Facebook and Twitter both partnered with the Atlantic Council, and they had something called the Digital Forensics Lab, maybe Digital Data Forensics Lab, and they were advising Facebook and Twitter on how to secure elections and prevent the spread of misinformation. But it's not like they sent us a notice saying like, hey, the Atlantic Council wants you gone, it was just, you're gone. So I'm not one to make assumptions, especially it's like, okay, well, I was a journalist, so I'm not going to just assume I know with certainty who was behind it. But I know that we had a lot of reach, and we were critical of both sides and the media. We were literally called the anti-media. So, there we went.
That's what was so funny is like, I haven't been canceled in that way, but on Facebook, we had, back in the day, the name of the show was Make Liberty Great Again. And we had a Facebook group that was with it. We had several hundred people, very close-knit group. Like we created memories. I'm pretty sure a couple people got married that were in the group. Like it was, we have a Secret Santa every year, just like the whole shebang. And then October 31st, like maybe 4 days before, 4 days before the election, they completely tore down our group, as well as Dave Smith's and a few other groups, all at once. And there'd been this weird lead up where anyone who had questions about coronavirus and how it was spread, or how the information was spread, things that were said then that have been verified by the CDC and Fauci now, but were thought to be conspiracies back then. That's how they kicked us off, is because people were asking questions they didn't want them to be asking. Amazing. Yeah. So I have a taste of it, but
and that's enough. Honestly, it's incredibly frustrating, and it can be quite disheartening, when you work to build something and you're having an effect and you're reaching people, and people want that product or whatever it is you're offering, and then to just have it be unilaterally axed and not even really given a reason, and suspiciously always right before an election, because right around that time on Instagram, they banned a bunch of accounts. And from what I can tell, they were accounts that used hashtags like libertarian and even, obviously Trump supporting things, but anything that goes against the established ideological acceptable conversation, you're at risk. And it's, it's so interesting because there are other pages that fly under the radar and they're fine. I don't think that there's actually like a consistent ideology to it. I think they're just kind of swinging wherever they can and grasping at whatever is apparent and obvious, and they're going to miss things. And like, I've been back on Twitter for, I don't know, a few months now, and nobody's caught me. Like they might catch me, who knows, but they're not as efficient as you would believe. Not you, but generally people.
Right.
Well, and it's like their algorithms are, I think that may be my favorite thing about like Twitter. Facebook, I've not used since. Like, I mean, I still have a Facebook, but I have no use for it. That's where I spent the lion's share of my time. But like, that's the fun thing about like Twitter and other websites that have these rules, are the people who are creatively getting around them. I've always loved this. Some people are far more crass than other people and will say some stuff, but I just love that creativity. Like one of them is, if you ever see someone say, "I am a gorilla," it comes from an episode of Timcast, where Michael Malice and Alex Jones were on, and they talked about the book by the book Ishmael. And Alex Jones was going, "I'm a gorilla, murder yourself." And so like one of the in-group things is like, if you say "I'm a gorilla," it's saying, you know, KYS.
Right.
But you know, that like there are different things that people do. And I just love the creativity. I mean, that one's particularly rough, obviously. But I love the creativity of getting around these things. And I thrive in that.
That sounds very innovative, because I remember, so I joined the anti-media, our founder started in 2012, right before the election. I joined in 2014, and we were reaching like literally millions of people. Like you could look at our like the analytics on Facebook, and it was like tens of millions of people a week. And then after the 2016 election, surprise, surprise, in like 2017, our reach just started tanking. And this was after they put us on a list that the Washington Post then cited and later retracted because it was complete horseshit. But it was too late. You know, they had already started the fake news propaganda push. And it's maddening because personally, as editor-in-chief, I didn't let people cite like RT, you know, just as much as I wouldn't let them cite Voice of America, unless it was like an actual interview with a general or something. You know, it was like, well, we're not going to use government-funded news sources. So it was just ridiculous that they called us Russian useful idiots or whatever. They put us on a list. It's because we opposed U.S. foreign policy. But my point is, after that, our reach started dropping. And so it became this kind of cat and mouse game where our social media people would have to try to gain the algorithms basically and like figure out the best times to post so that they could overcome, because they'd switch the algorithms like once a month, or they'd always be switching it. So once you figured out how to get around it, then they'd switch it again. And then our reach would drop again. So we were really struggling in the couple of years or year and a half or however long, I'm bad at math, however long before they banned us. So it wasn't like, oh, we were reaching all these people and then boom, we're gone. It was, they started hitting at us before they even banned us. And so it was interesting and sometimes exciting to try to get around it, but also so frustrating. And then you're just gone. So
yeah, well, and that's I love subversion. And that's like one of my things, is being able to be in the current zeitgeist and use, I mean, people use this in different ways, some bad, some good, but like just being able to subvert is such a wonderful thing, in my opinion. We had a couple of friends who used the phrase vaccine passport in a YouTube video they did, and YouTube pulled the video.
Just for using the word?
Yeah.
Well, apparently being critical of the concept.
Right.
And so Jessica and I, right before we did our show, after that stuff started coming out, we saw that and we were like, okay, so what are we going to call vaccine passport?
Right. I remember that.
And so it was, I actually did a poll. We ended up saying it anyway, because it's kind of like,
we can only say Baja Blast over and over again. We're talking about the vaccine passport, guys. Come on.
But yeah, we decided to call the vaccine the Baja Blast. The poll was close between that or Steve-O sauce. But
I like Baja Blast. I'm going to go with the majority here, Marlboro.
See, and I'm just like, this is so gross and disgusting. I love it.
But Baja Blast has that like radioactive aspect to it. Like you think it should probably glow in the dark.
Right.
So that seems appropriate to me.
Yeah. Stay out of the Baja Blast zone, people.
Exactly.
It's not a good idea.
Well, that's actually good to know, because I just recorded a video and I did use the word vaccine. So maybe I need to go back and like.
So they've actually lightened up a little bit on it since some of the reporting in the news about there being problems with the vaccine. It's really hard to like even discuss the news on YouTube sometimes. So they've had to lighten up some of their aspects or some of their reporting aspects as far as that goes. Sense. So yeah. And, you know, but before you were just not allowed to say, hey, there might be problems with it untested, you know.
Hey, like, guys, we really just trust corporations and they're evil, but let's completely trust one with a horrible track record. And if you disagree, you're obviously a right-wing extremist and you want grandma to die.
Right. That was a fun video where you were put next to Fox News as a right-wing extremist.
Oh my God, I can't. I just get, I get so like, and you know what's funny is that report actually came out a couple months before I made that video and I didn't see it. And then actually someone from Anti-Media, one of our social media guys who had, you know, he was with us through the ban, he messaged it to me And I was like, I just can't take it anymore, because their whole argument is that they never said that we specifically were purveyors of fake news, but that's the whole justification for the bans and for like being afraid of right-wing extremists, is they're spreading misinformation. And then they're the ones peddling the misinformation. Like, and it's not that it was a widely cited report, but these are the experts, you know, this is someone from a university. Right. And so therefore their word is better than mine, when nothing I've said warrants putting me. And they didn't put me in like far right extremists. They put me in just a regular old mainstream, which is honestly offensive. Like, I don't get offended easily, but really, guys, like, you weren't even going to make me a radical. You just made me like boring mainstream Republican. That's so like, I thought I worked for years to establish myself as a radical, and you're just going to throw me in a Fox News box. It was so disappointing. But yeah,
that's the binary that they view the world in. So they
exactly.
can't see. Right.
Exactly. Like, it's not even that they were intentionally trying to smear me. It's that they probably saw a couple of my videos and were like, oh, she's a Republican. You know, like, I even was just talking to a conservative Republican recently. And I even said, I was like, oh, I'm like a libertarian anarchist. And 3 hours later, they introduced me to someone. They're like, it's Carey, she's a conservative. And I'm like, that's not what I told you, dude. Like we agree on some stuff, and that's cool. I'm glad I can find common ground with anyone, really. I could have a conversation with a progressive and also find common ground. Although fundamentally, at the end of the day, I disagree with both of them. I can be cordial and I can find things to agree on, but and it wasn't this person alone. This is just what people do. I've had so many, even friends, call me a Republican. And I'm like, well, how did you get that impression? And it's literally just because you either want to see me as you see yourself, or you're so opposed to what I believe that it just comes off as like you said, it's binary. Like, it was a liberal and she would introduce me to people and be like, this is my friend Carey. She's a Republican, but we're still friends, and we're not friends anymore. You know, like,
they're not allowed to be friends anymore, because there is like a serious cult aspect to that, where you're one of them. I used to be a leftist, SJW, like all back when anti-media and police the police got zucked, as we call it now. I was a big fat SJW back then. And that was kind of a moment for me where I was starting to see like how Orwellian everything was. And when you said it's weird, I would think leftists would be into policing the police. I thought if you had opened that page after 2016 and had been critical of the regime that was in power at that moment, your page would be the most popular page on earth right now. But at that moment, you were criticizing the status quo. The coronation from Obama to Hillary Clinton. So your voice had to be removed, even though you didn't bring it from Russia. You brought it from a legitimate understanding of what the problems were. But we were just supposed to be saying there are no problems. Everything is great, and Hillary's going to continue to make it great. And that's why I believe that was always my take on why y'all got removed. And I was like, well, I'm not voting for fucking Hillary anyway. I was on the left at that point. Since then, I'm not on the left. I've walked away from that. Everything has gone Orwellian and crazy, and I walked away. And all of my friends from that period of my life all refer to me now as a conservative. I'm like, I'm not a conservative. I didn't change. Y'all just went way further than me, and I couldn't go with you.
Well, they have to make you bad. They have to make you bad for disagreeing, and conservative is bad. You couldn't possibly have something that's just completely outside the box, because they truly can't even understand it. And that's not, I don't even want to say it's their fault. That's just the programming, you know, like they're victims of programming. And when I get very angry at them, I have to remember that, just as much as I was a victim of programming. And I could have snapped out of it sooner, but I didn't, because I believed it. And they got something that I talk about a lot, or maybe I haven't talked about it much in videos, but I intend to, is that the left has sort of this monopoly on compassion. And they've convinced people that forcefully taking other people's income. Yeah, exactly. And that's very appealing to a lot of people, because they're actually very well intended and they want to help people. And they've been tricked and manipulated into believing this is the way to do it. And it's very sad. And we can acknowledge that they're victims of propaganda and also not let them walk all over us, you know, like both can be true. Like we can resist and like not be hateful. Although, I mean, it's completely reasonable to get irritated and angry. Like, I totally get it. It happens to me all the time. And then I have to remind myself, it's not worth the anger.
Well, I've noticed that you take a much different tack than a lot of people, especially like when it comes to social media interaction, that you're like trying to bring positivity to it. And that is not
Really?
something that's going on right now. Yeah, no, I mean, like I watched your video about the video itself was about fake spirituality.
Spiritual bypass. Yeah.
Spiritual bypass, right. And but
Mhm.
hold on, I wrote it down. Mirroring suffering. You were talking about mirroring suffering, and I was like, that is such a great metaphor for the way I see interactions, especially political interactions, playing out in social media. Like, you're taking out your negative emotions that you feel about all the different things that are wrong with the world on this person, and then they're your sacrificial totem or whatever it is.
Exactly.
I was like, man, that just nails it for me. So that was it. I mean, like the whole video was great, but that particular point. Yeah.
It was a few years ago. I don't remember exactly what I said, but that sounds familiar.
Relevant to today. Sure.
Yeah. And it seems like it's only getting worse. And it also, I think, is such an integral part of the path toward true freedom. And it's also completely compatible with true freedom, like taking responsibility for yourself and your feelings. And also knowing that you're not responsible for other people's feelings. I can be compassionate, but at the end of the day, I'm not responsible for the person having a meltdown on my post. I'm sorry that you're upset, but also that's on you. I'm not responsible for how you react to me. And all of this to me is completely in line with individuality and individual sovereignty and freedom and anarchism, because it comes down to personal responsibility. And I can blame the government all I want. I can blame the politicians. I can blame the people who support them. And yeah, sure, that's valid. Is that going to alleviate my suffering and anger at the state of the world? Probably not. It feels good to be right, but that doesn't fix the world, nor does it. It just makes me cling harder to like these negative statist emotions that really feed the system. Even though I'm not advocating force, obviously, it's still, I don't want to live that way, like freedom should, I don't want to say should, but freedom to me is a positive. It's a very liberating, happy thing that involves compassion and empathy. And, it's kind of inherently not compassionate to try to force your will on other people. You can't be empathetic at the same time you're putting a gun to someone's head and telling them that it's for their own good. That's not empathy. So to cultivate real empathy, that's completely in line with non-aggression, with respecting other people's rights, without forcing them to do what you want. So I think a lot of people in our community, and myself included, some days, like we're very averse to feeling compassion. We're like, no, they're the problem. They don't deserve my compassion. Compassion's a lie. It's only going to get you more tyranny. And it's like, well, that's a very black and white view of it. And it is, I'm telling you from experience, you can resist at the same time you don't shut your heart down, because what's the point of fighting for freedom if you're doing it from a place of like a defensive armored heart? I'm in this, I speak from the heart, and yeah, I can be a bitch sometimes, but I'm not doing this like, and I'm obviously my ego creeps into it sometimes. We're all human, but I'm not doing it. I'm doing this because I love freedom, not because I hate the government, although I also hate the government, I love freedom more than I hate it or hate the government. So I think it's important to think about approaching how we communicate from that lens. And I'm not saying you have to be perfect at it. I certainly am not, but it's maybe just something we could mix into our dialogue within the community.
Little effort goes a long way.
Right, exactly.
And that's one of those, like the one of the big pushes of this show, which we'll get to closer to the end, is, hope, the white pill, finding the joy in being able to find, rebuilding out of what everyone is viewing as desperation, what looks like desperation right now. And so it's one of those things I had to like really throw off my cynicism several years ago. I think it was about 2016 where I was just like, okay, I'm done. And that meant I was done arguing with people. I was done debating people. I was there to have fun with people that I like, to have conversations or say things I believe. And then I believe in being Batman against the bad guys.
Okay.
Like I'm not there to be Superman and save the bad guys. I'm there to point out that they're the bad guys and to punch them while I'm doing it. And so that's kind of how my brain works. And so Jessica and I were talking about this earlier today. I'm very specific about who I will go after or bully online. And that has to do with, is this, for me, I have like my little code of ethics, but it's like, is it a politician? Free game. Is it a corporate journalist? Free game. But then with regular people, I typically leave them alone unless they either attack me or they are currently calling for me to be harmed, imprisoned, etc.
Right.
Like there was one guy I just decided to go wild on yesterday because he said that we needed to be put into re-education camps because we believed in gun ownership.
He
And
wasn't
I was
trolling.
like,
He for sure was not trolling.
well, here's the thing. This one was kind of within that, is it Poe's law? Where you can't really tell, you're not really sure.
Right.
But
They're getting better and better.
Yeah.
He went so hard against so many people. I was like, I think this guy may be a true believer because
Right.
some of the stuff he said was just was dumb enough to believe he actually carried that mindset.
Right.
And so I was just like, okay, well, I'm just gonna fight you because that's fun for me. I'm gonna tell you, it's fun for me.
Right.
But yeah, we were talking about that earlier today. Is we want to have conversations that are worth having. We want to have conversations that are fun and lively, and we can share stupid things as well as we love absurdity. Like that's like the niche is the absurd.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I don't think you're wrong at all. And one of the questions we've been asking people lately, and I think I know which way you're going to go on this before I ask it.
Okay.
But we've talked to Joshua Smith, who wants you to follow him on Twitter, by the way.
Okay.
Which he lost his Twitter account, so I guess the new one.
Just so you know, I do not. It stresses me out. It gives me anxiety. I check them like once a day, and I skim them really fast, and I'm like, I can't. So I'm not ignoring. It's not personal. It's for my own mental health. Just letting you guys know.
We talked to him. We talked to Jeff Deist. We talked to Clint from Liberty Lockdown, who wants to know if you're single. And
is he asking you to ask me?
He didn't. He did not do that.
Okay.
It was a very, do you like Clint? Y or N, circle 1.
Oh well, I don't talk about my private life publicly, so it's a mystery.
Yeah.
That's what you get, Clint. That's what you get.
We did tell him we'd ask, though, and we did our job.
You've done your part.
Thank you.
But,
lock down. That's my
But one of the questions, because Clinton and Josh Smith are kind of part of the LP political paradigm thing. Me and Jessica are really more on the make yourself free, do your own thing, make the government, nullify the government kind of deal. And then we had Jeff Deist, who's kind of like, he's a very cool, very serious man, but he's kind of utilize the existing paradigm, etc.
Right.
So, in your opinion, are you more along the lines of using the political system and being a part of it in any way, or are you more of an alternative markets agorist-ish type person?
I have a feeling your assumption about my answer would be as correct. So I'm definitely more on the agorist side, counter economics, build parallel structures that make government obsolete because the government's doing it itself. And I'm of the belief that the more useless and inefficient and wasteful and violent and just like a caught animal cornered, thrashing around, trying to give its last fight up, the more that happens, the market is naturally going to provide alternatives. So I have hope in that. But at the same time, again, like I used to be so black and white about everything, and that doesn't work for me. It's exhausting, and it feels good for a while, to be right about everything. And like, I actually just posted a meme on my Instagram from, it's a Game of Thrones quote from Varys. And it's like, that's the thing about fanatics. You're always right. And like, I felt that way for a very long time. And obviously I believe the philosophy is right. But if there are people who want to try to make a difference by using the state to reduce the state, do I think it's effective in the long run? Nah, not really. But hey, man, if you want to try, if you feel like that's worthwhile, you do that. If you want to vote for a local prosecutor who's not going to pursue nonviolent drug offenses, do that. I get that. If you want to vote for a proposition that's going to decriminalize cannabis or shrooms or whatever, by all means, do it. Like I actually was considering voting in the recall for Gavin Newsom.
See,
not to vote for someone else, not to pick someone else, just to get rid of him. I don't think I'm going to do it, but I've thought about it.
How fantastic is that though? Let me cut in on this Gavin Newsom thing.
Yeah.
Because first off, hey, they're gonna do recall. Did you hear? There are two people that are gonna try to get the Republican nomination. One of them being Caitlyn Jenner.
I heard about that.
The other being Randy Quaid, aka Shittersful from Christmas Vacation.
I don't recognize a word you just said, to be honest. I'm gonna have to look that up.
Have you seen National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation with Chevy Chase? Oh, it's okay. It's okay. He's related to what's
old
his
movie.
name? The other Quaid.
Dennis
No,
Quaid? That's the only Quaid I know.
He's related to Dennis Quaid.
Okay.
You gotta see the way this dude looks now.
Okay.
He's very bearded. Very, very bearded. But you've got these two people that are like complete opposites physically, both trying to get Gavin Newsom out. And I think
that's hilarious.
Could we live in a better timeline?
No.
Getting to watch that.
And I can't wait to call liberals transphobic for not voting for Caitlyn. Like, why else? Why else would they not vote for her? Why would they vote for a white male, heteronormative male, who apparently, and I can't confirm this because it was told me secondhand, so before you repeat it or before you believe me, like search it yourself. But I was told that apparently Newsom has a reputation for being a cheater on his wife, going after married women, you know. And I don't know, but I think that says something about a person's integrity. And I don't have to cite his personal life to go after his integrity, you know. Like, and it's not even just COVID; it's so many different policies. I'm waiting until it gets a little closer to the recall vote to make a video about it, but there will be one because I've watched that.
Oh, good. I will share the devil out of it. But yeah, no, that's what's so funny is like he's definitely been on my list when it comes to him and Cuomo are fighting for the top spot of who goes to Gitmo first.
Right.
You know, because it's like the things that they have done. Like, and that's what's crazy. Like I told you before the show, my brother lives out in California. Mm-hmm. And so early on, like he masked his 2-year-old. Mm. Like he's believed everything that they said, which, you know, for Susan of YouTube, coronavirus totally 100% everything you say it is. I believe you. Get vaccinated and wear 5 masks. We believe you.
We
Susan.
trust the experts, okay? We only trust experts.
All of the experts at the same time.
But he, since the beginning of it, has been talking about how great of a job Newsom has done. And I was just like,
what?
How are you saying this? What was the name of the restaurant he went to? Something Laundry?
French Laundry.
French Laundry. It's a very fancy, bougie restaurant. Like the homeless people on Skid Row are not getting donations from French Laundry, you know? They're not getting anything.
What blew my mind was like they were, well, and that's the thing. Not him, but some of his friends, I would see them post on things and they were straight up using their children as props for this stuff, like to spread the gospel of Fauci. Right. And it was just like, I am so glad I decided not to move out to Los Angeles.
You know what though? Okay, obviously I'm biased because I'm born and raised in LA, which is, there aren't that many of us, you know, because
real Angelina.
I'm like a native, like literally born and raised. I went to school here. I'm planning to make a move out and it's happening, but as bad as the legislation is, as bad as, especially like the LA mayor was on a whole power trip too. I'd say just as bad as Newsom, just not with as much power because he only has LA, but there were so many people here not complying. And they're like, that's the weird thing about LA and California is there are so many hippies. And even though they might be kind of like liberal minded, when it comes to their bodies and their health, they're not down for this, you know, like even liberals who were okay with the lockdowns at the start. I know of people who now they're just like, absolutely not. It has gone on too long. And it also, like, I went up to the Griffith Observatory, which is kind of a tourist spot. I had a friend in town and there were cops up there and neither of us were wearing masks and they didn't say a word to us. Like, they're just like, no, we're not doing this, you know? So like, yes, the policies themselves are absolutely atrocious. But as far as the COVID enforcement, I haven't seen that much of it. That being said, obviously, there were cops going out to like shut down businesses. There were actually, this was one of the worst. They were, and this happened right near me. One of them did apparently. So restaurants had to shut down. They couldn't have people dining in. This was last year in the first few months. And so they were putting up signs just to say like, we're open, we have takeout. And then the city was going around finding them because they weren't up to code or they didn't have the permit to hang a sign from their restaurant to tell people they could order food. So like, it just, and the fact that people were okay with that, and it's not even that they were okay with it, but it's just sort of this like collateral damage thing. It's not, they're like, oh, well, that sucks. They shouldn't be doing that, but I would like to feel safe. So too bad. And it's the same mentality. Like my friend here, when we were banned on anti-media, she was telling, and this is a yogi, someone who's like so about peace and spirituality. And she was telling him like, hey, my friend, she's like an anti-war, police accountability, blah, blah, blah. Like she's into all these things and she just got banned. And his response was, yeah, I mean, that's too bad, but basically something anti-Semitism. Like, well, I would like to feel safe from Jew haters, so she's just going to have to get banned. And it's like, dude, I'm half Jewish. You don't see it like, not that I care, not that I advertise it, not that I'm practicing, not that I was raised that way. I never went to Hebrew school. I wasn't raised in any way, but kind of like culturally, because that's my family history. But just the ridiculousness of the fear overriding, honestly, just basic common sense. But even, it's interesting because no one has said a word to me. I don't hike with a mask on. Why would I hike with a mask on? And I take my dog hiking a lot because she's a lot of energy. We have to go exercise, and not a single time, no one has said a word to me. People with masks on will even say hi to me. But her trainer, Rev's trainer, my dog's trainer, was telling me that he gets attacked like every single time. He's like, this lady was calling me like a QAnon Trump supporter because I wasn't wearing a mask. And it's just like, is it because you're a white male? Like, is that why? Are you an easier target? I don't know, but
and that's how I know that California is a completely parallel universe to where I'm living. Because for me, like I look a little rough. Like most people probably aren't going to look at me and go, yeah, I'm going to talk to him about masks. I'm also in Florida now, so it's not so bad. But me and my wife hadn't had anyone say anything to us whatsoever because we just didn't do it. In Sam's and all of that. And we've talked about it. Jessica and I have talked about it with people before about how many people don't realize they can take off their masks. Like, and so when you walk in without one, and I think 22 plus people I've seen, so because I started keeping count, will take them off when they see me because they go, oh, wow. And, I've said before, more courage is passed through a smile than you'd ever realize. But as soon as I walked away from my wife in Sam's, one time, she has our newborn baby on her chest. She's wearing her. And someone pops up to her. Some older lady comes up and says, why aren't you wearing a mask? Don't you care about your baby? And I was like,
what? Sorry, go ahead.
No, it was just amazing to me because I was like, wow, sexism.
Right, I know.
Because they won't talk to me, but they will talk to her.
Right.
And she thought, it's going to kill the baby. The baby.
Any video you see where someone is being confronted over not wearing a mask, it's usually a petite woman who is being like accosted by like, especially early on, there was that one video of this older man who was like doom stalking this woman through a Michael's. What he said was, why should we have to wear a mask and she shouldn't? So it wasn't about COVID or spreading the illness. It was, I'm following the rules. Why aren't you? And it was like, because I don't have to, bitch. Sorry.
Exactly.
I don't have to. And the only thing I've ever had happen to me is I heard someone mouth as they passed me, because they didn't confront me, but they passed me. And they said, why do you think you're better than other people? And I looked back and I said, I think you're better than this too.
Oh, that's nice.
We both went our separate ways. Like I don't think I'm better than you. I think we're all above this. And if I don't wear my mask and that gives you the courage not to wear yours, because I think a lot of people are feeling it out. They keep a mask in their pocket or they walk with it in their hand and they say, I'm going to feel it out. And if they see people without it, it's going to give them the courage not to do it too. So I encourage everyone to pass courage around in that way if you can. Yeah.
Well, and it's also
and what a wonderful way to handle that too. Sorry, I just want to say
you're good.
Uh-oh, did she freeze or did I freeze?
She's a little frozen.
Like you.
Uh-oh.
Technical difficulties. So hopefully she'll bounce back in a second.
Right. Carey, I don't know if you could see us, but you're frozen.
Okay, I think you're back.
Hold on.
Sort of. What a bummer, because we always have dudes on the show. I'm liking having a chick on the show for once.
Wait, can you guys hear me now?
I can. Oh, hi.
Am I back?
Yes, you are back.
Okay,
back.
Cool. Okay. Cam, you dropped out and then you were saying, okay, we're back.
You were saying it's such a nice way to...
Oh, okay. Yeah. I just wanted to say that was such a wonderful response from you, Jessica. Like, you could have shamed him. You could have been mean. You could have been reactive. You could have, but instead you chose to like lift him up at the same time. And I think that's so much more of what we need. So that is a wonderful thing to say. And if anybody says a word to me, that's what I'm going to say too. So thank you. That's very inspiring.
Because, if you give people the opportunity to be negative, like I was saying, that thing you said about mirroring suffering is so dead on for like politicized society right now.
Right.
Because we're all like, people are such a frayed wire. It's almost like we're looking for a reason to get into conflict.
Exactly.
And like, hey, I'm not your enemy. I'm not here to fight you.
Right.
Like, I don't, even if I'm a hardcore decentralizationist and secessionist. And I don't even want war with the people that I want to separate from. I want us to peacefully separate. And so we're not going to do that by making, nasty swipes at each other.
Exactly.
So yeah, we got to.
I say this as I just filmed a video taking nasty swipes at people. I'm like, yeah, totally. No, they're not.
Some people earn that shit.
I've just been waiting for someone to have the gumption to say something to me so that I can just be mean to someone, but I haven't had the chance yet. It's not fair.
Well, I was waiting for someone to say something mean to me so I could be like, hey, dude, by provoking me and forcing me to have a conversation, I'm now spraying aerosols at you. So if you are scared, you are putting yourself in danger. And if that's worth it to you, you want to be a martyr. If that's how you want to be, by all means, go for it. But nobody says anything to me. I don't know why. Maybe it's because my dog is so cute. They don't want to like provoke her. I don't know.
But yeah, I have noticed, like I said, at least here, and she said petite women get the brunt of it. But there is some sexism. There's some stuff that like because you hear people talk about sexism, especially on Twitter and other places, and it's like that's not the word you should be using for this right now. But it's like, this is legit, sexist against women. And since I have two women here, I did want to ask a question of both of you, really. Every time I'm on Twitter and there's some drama or some kind of fight going on, there's always some woman who pipes up, regardless of how bad either party is, and says that you can't fight against women, you need to support all women. How does that strike you? Because I know if someone said that to me about, we're men, we have to stick together, you have to support all men, I'd be like, no, fuck that guy.
Right.
That's a bad guy. I'm not going. So how does that strike you as a woman? Because I find that I would be pissed.
Who's going first?
You feel free, because I'm just gonna laugh.
Right. I mean, okay, I like the sentiment. I like it. I have so many girlfriends. I love women. I'm so excited when I hear from women in this community. Like, I want to be friends with all the girls. Like, I'm all into that. However, that is such, and it's funny because I just filmed a video about the inherent sexism of my body, my choice on the left. So it's funny we're talking about sexism, but it's so, I'm an individual. We're all individuals. Why would you try to collectivize us in that way? Not every woman is great. Not every man is great. It's kind of like a human thing. How about that just seems, I like the sentiment. Like, yeah, I'd like to start out that way, but I'm not going to support women, AKA humans, individuals, people. I'm not going to support them if I think their argument sucks, or if I think they're being mean or cruel or manipulative or whatever. And again, this isn't just about women. It's just about people. So I go off. I just filmed literally a whole video. And it's something that's been rattling around in my brain for years. And I just got it off my chest, and it was like really hot in my apartment. And I was just like raging because I was like sweating. Like, my back was soaking. I'm like, I want to be done. So I really went off. But yeah, that is inherently, it's sexist. And I don't think they're intending to be. I know it comes from a good place and obviously like a compassionate place. Like, let's just be nice to people. I support that sentiment. But yeah, I'm done. That's it.
Yeah.
Well, I'm with you. That would be kind of how I would break it down too. I'm an individualist. Like,
right.
Kamala Harris is a terrible hell pig who is just awful. Why would I be excited that that particular woman became vice president?
Right.
Like, I can't. I mean,
it's not how not how we want to get it, ladies. It's not how we want to get the presidency.
Right. Exactly. And I remember in 2016, a girl said to me, she was like, yeah, but like, wouldn't it be good for little girls to see that like a woman could be president? It's like, first of all, judge her by her merits, which are awful and putrid, and she is a war criminal and just a vile sociopath. But also, like, no, I don't want anybody to be in a position of violent control and authority. I don't think that's a good role model. Why would I want little girls to aspire to rule over people? That is not my idea. Like, that doesn't embody femininity. Like, I think that femininity, and again, I'm going to have a whole video about this, and I have a speech on it on YouTube from Anarchapulco. It's called "Why Aren't There More Women in the Movement?" And I go into some of this, but I envision or believe that feminine qualities include like gentleness and kindness and compassion. And my contention is that men can have those qualities too, and women can have more masculine qualities. Like, and we kind of need that. Like, we need to develop this all within ourselves. There's a duality, and we need both of it. But point being, like, I'm not proud that there are women in Congress voting to kill people, and obviously that's not what they're doing, but they're voting to go bomb innocent people overseas. They're arming regimes that oppress women. I don't think that's not girl power. And it makes me like genuinely sick, actually, like talking, like you can see to my face. I'm like, ugh, I feel ill thinking about it.
Have you guys noticed how whenever Joe Biden appoints someone to a new cabinet now, they say this lesbian woman, this transgender woman, whatever. And I was like, well, gee, you could have said her name and her qualifications, but instead you mentioned her genitalia situation, which like, seems like an odd way.
Yeah, stop objectifying me, man. Like that's and that's sort of I'll give a little preview because this video was actually, if you've ever heard of Angela Keaton, she planted this idea in my brain years ago. She runs antiwar.com. She is amazing, super smart. And she was the first person who gave me this idea, but it's actually the entire notion of like progressive democratic statist feminism is predicated on reducing women to their body parts. It's like my body, my choice, keep the government out of my vagina, birth control, abortion, like all of this limits me to my reproductive organs. And that objectifies me. That's extremely sexist, especially when alongside that you're saying, well, no, you don't get to choose about how you spend your money. You just have to fund these things that I want you to fund. Like, so within my body is my mind. I've used my mind and my consciousness to reason that this morally offends me. I don't want to participate. I don't consent. And it's too bad. The only thing you really get to choose is an authoritarian ruler to make choices for you, or your pussy. You get to make choices about your pussy. And that's it. And it like, and nobody sees it. Well, people see it, but the people that I'm addressing don't see it. And it's because they're programmed that way. They don't view that. Like, they think that voting is actually very pro-choice, but like, it's just so inherently sexist. And it's so funny because they think that they're fighting these things and they're perpetuating it so badly in such a disturbing way. And just one last thing I'll say, because I'm rambling now, but something that really stands out to me, someone told me once, is to distinguish between power with versus power over. And the goal should be power with, but so much of this resistance and so much of modern feminism and whatever ism you want has nothing to do with power with and honoring the other and finding common ground. It's strictly about power over, and it comes from such a vengeful and I don't want to say megalomaniacal place, because like I don't want to assign that to them, but ultimately it is. It's about it's not even taking back control. It's about seizing control and running with it and making other people submit as a form of like revenge. And that, again, that's not femininity to me. And it's like women trying to perpetuate what could be considered toxic masculinity, which is a whole other conversation. I'm going to have a whole video on that too. But, I love men. I'm not here to say men are the problem or they're toxic or whatever, but yeah.
There is genuine sexism even within like the liberty movement, which talks about, individualism, and it gets papered over because you don't want to seem like you're being oversensitive about things and like you can't take a joke. And then it sort of like gives a pass to some of these things. So I think that's actually an important topic to discuss. And there is a lack of women in this movement. There's reasons for that. So maybe if we actually like were honest and addressed those reasons without like reducing it to, well, you're too sensitive to take a joke, we might actually welcome more women into this movement.
Right, exactly.
Is it a good balance because we have different qualities than men, which we might be able to bring to the table and could bear fruit for our movement. So I agree with you 100%. I'm looking forward to these videos, as a matter of fact. I think they're needed.
And we need both. That's the thing. Like, that's what I've arrived at. There's this like girl power, girls run the world. And it's like, well, aside from the gross statism of that statement. Right, exactly. It's like, well, no, like there's a yin and a yang. There's a balance. And both are out of whack right now, because humans are out of whack right now. It's not that women are messed up or men are messed up. It's that humans are struggling. And yeah, there's going to be some gender specific attributes to people suffering in their experience. But ultimately, I don't see us getting anywhere unless we find a way to have power with instead of power over. And I think the zealots on any side are so stuck on the power over because that's been conflated with empowerment. And those are very, very different things.
Man, spot on.
That's what's so funny is like you're talking about like, how the feminist conception of it, I don't know why this made me think of it, but you talk about how it seems to be pushing women towards the toxically masculine. And it made, I don't know why, but it made me think of in particular like drag queen culture, which I don't know a lot about, but what I do know is that it's like the most caricatured, offensive, it's toxic femininity that they kind of go after. And it's just, I don't know why I mentioned this. I'm just putting it out there. That made me think of that for some reason. It seems to be some form of true misunderstanding of the other gender where this stems from.
Right.
And so apparently with feminism, it's misunderstanding themselves or listening to what they've been told. I don't, school me. I don't know.
Right. Well, what's funny is I actually, a very long time ago, when I first started caring about what was going on in the world, I actually came at it. I was interning at a film studio and I was reading all these scripts and I was watching these young actresses coming in and I was watching the VP just like inviting aspiring actresses in. He had no intention of booking her for a role. He just thought she was hot and wanted to talk to her. And I just felt so gross about it. And there was a very qualified exec, like she ran the department. And this is like, I'm not going to say the name because they never responded. I asked them once if I could like say where I worked, like, because I'd signed an NDA and nobody responded. So I'm not going to say what studio it was, but it wasn't like one of the evil Epstein studios. It was actually a very quality studio. And even there was this woman and she was behind like some major blockbusters and she brought in a huge, actually very anti-authoritarian film when I was working there, interning there, unpaid internship. But the people in the department were so mean to her when she wasn't there, like they would just be and she was the only female executive there. And it was through that experience. And it was the same summer that I was waking up to Ron Paul and I was starting to get political and I was becoming very anti-authoritarian and anti-Obama. But I actually started from a place of like, oh man, girls got it rough in this culture, like it's really difficult. And I'm from LA. Like I grew up completely indoctrinated into all of these very toxic feminine qualities, believing it was empowerment, and believe me, I love makeup. I love fashion. I love these things. I'm super girly. But that doesn't mean that they didn't take up, like they took up too much space in my life and my identity. And it was, anyway, I started writing a book about this and it was getting into all the things we're talking about, but I hadn't yet gone down the full anarchist road. So I am going to have to rewrite the entire book. But I want to make it more about like personal autonomy because I think they all tie together because ultimately all these values are very collectivist of like, oh, women should be this way or shouldn't be this way. There's actually, there's a billboard in LA that I see all the time. And it says like girls should learn history and they should make it too. And it's like, well, who are you to say? Like, and my major was history in college. Like, yes, history is very important, but like people should learn history. People should make history. And I get it. Like there are obviously parts of the world where girls and women don't have access to education or to roles where they can actually make a difference. But I just find that entire notion of like this overarching cultural authority telling girls how to be empowered and what they should do, like the squad in Congress, like that's the role model.
Yeah.
The women who are advocating violent aggression to mold the world the way they want. I'm sorry, I'm not impressed. And I don't think that that's empowerment. So I have a lot to say. Well, spend a lot of time in this world.
No, it's crazy to me that feminism will spend so much time hammering the concept of consent, right? Especially when it comes to like sex. But it cannot seem to like stretch that concept beyond that level. And so I don't understand why doing any of these other things that the state does to people violates their consent and why that's so terribly wrong. But suddenly when we're not in the bedroom, consent doesn't matter anymore. And that always struck me as like a painful, blistering contradiction. Like how do you reconcile this? And no one to this day has given me an answer.
No, they don't. And to me, that's inherently sexist. Again, like you're objectifying me. You're saying that I only get, and you think you're empowering me, but you're saying that the only thing I'm qualified to make decisions about is my vagina. Like that's like quite paternalistic, dude. And it's like a manipulative paternalism because you're like giving me the freedom that women were denied for so long throughout history. But then you're saying that like my consciousness doesn't matter. Like what? Like you're telling, I've been going on about this for years, so I'm going to try to get the video done quickly because I'm seething.
I'm here for it. This is a topic. I mean, especially in the way that women relate to, because our concerns are, unique to us,
right?
And this is a sorely needed thing to discuss, and I am here for your content.
I'm here for yours.
Please produce that. Yeah, awesome. Yeah. You are physically at the moment.
Yeah, literally.
That's what's. I don't know. It's. I've had arguments with my wife recently, not bad arguments, just like arguments, because I've seen what feminism has done to women, but I've also seen what it has done to boys. Mm-hmm. I've seen what they've said about boys, how they've destroyed some of the guys that you see coming up now that are, younger than I am. There's some shit that they have to deprogram themselves from, and it's horrible. And so when I hear the word feminism, I bristle. And so it's like we've kind of talked about, and I'm just like, that's the conversation I've had with her a few times, is like, I'm an individualist. Right. So I'm not going to call myself a feminist or a masculinist, meninist, whatever ist you want. I believe in human beings and individuals, and not all human beings. Some of them can just go away forever. One of those, you live in Los Angeles. I'm pretty sure my arch nemesis lives in Los Angeles.
Who is it? Maybe I'm friends with them.
My arch nemesis is a decorated actor. He once took a trip to Mordor. He played football as a character named Rudy. It's Sean Astin, and I hate him.
I'm fucking Astin.
Do you know who? This is
Samwise.
Who that is?
Well, that's good, but
yeah, I love when we don't know who a celebrity is, because it's like. It's just my internal win over celebrity culture.
Brings me joy. It brings me joy. Well, I have personal beef with Sean Astin because he dropped my motorcycle and then pretended he didn't drop my motorcycle. So shady. I don't like him.
Yeah.
But every time I mention TikTok, my line after that is, I have a TikTok because I'm hip. It's a lie. I'm not hip. I'm just on there to hang out with David from the Morning Drive with David. Almost purely.
Hi, Dave.
And the other day, he posted this video, and there's this filter where if you put a picture of someone in, it will morph your face into it. And the joke is, you do this, and it shows you what celebrity you look like. It doesn't actually. You preload it.
Okay.
And so I made a TikTok
I didn't know that.
Of this. Yeah, I made a TikTok off of this, and it was just an inside joke about how much I hate Sean Astin. And I thought maybe Jessica would like it. Maybe anyone on this show that's heard my hatred of Sean Astin would like it. But so far, I had to leave this open so I could tell you the number. 286,000 people have watched it. There are 20,000 likes. I went from like maybe 30 or 40 followers to 3,848 since I played this.
There you go. Spread the good word of liberty to the unsuspecting masses.
But here, I do want to show you this video. Maybe you can find the humor without knowing how much I hate this guy. But I did want to show this today just because it's blowing my mind, because usually I barely use TikTok. Now, if I open it, it's always 99 plus notifications. And so here's that video that more than 250,000 people watched for some reason.
Okay. What you know about rolling down in the deep when your brain goes?
I should do that. Motherfucker.
And that's it.
Funny. That's funny.
And so now I have all of these followers, and they don't even know that I'm like, they have not scrolled back to see my joke about owning guns and this, that, and the other. I can't imagine they'll stick around, but I just had to share that.
Some will.
Yeah.
And that's the beauty.
True.
And I think that's so, I don't know how to do this. I'm not great at it, but I think it's fascinating and so effective to reach people through culture. And that's effectively what you just did. You just drew in thousands of people just through a cultural joke. And now, you'll lose some because they're going to be scared of guns or whatever, but some are going to stick around and some are going to have their views challenged and some are going to end up agreeing with us. So good job. Gold stars.
Well, I think the best part about it is now I can say, yeah, I have TikTok because I'm hip. And it's true now. It's no longer a lie. But I just want to share it because I hate Sean Astin. This is a Sean Astin hate podcast. And we've converted many people. I think we've converted more people to Sean Astin hate than libertarianism or anarchism, rather.
Well, and that's the more important mission anyway, right? We got to get people to hate this actor. I can't. Sean Astin? Sean
Astin. I love that you don't know who he is. And you live in Los
I didn't even
Angeles.
recognize his face.
Film industry.
So he was in Stranger Things. He played the stepdad in Stranger Things.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, well, that was his most recent character he played. Yeah, he played.
Yeah, I was just happy when he died at the end.
The ones that play the nice guys, those are the ones to watch out for. I've got my suspicions about Tom Hanks. I'm watching out for that guy.
Oh yeah.
He's too nice. Too nice.
Absolutely.
This is a good question from Quest. Has anyone seen the film The Red Pill? Have either of you seen this?
I haven't.
It was a documentary by a girl named Cassie J. I just know this information off the top of my head. You're welcome, Quest. But she was looking to do a documentary because she was a super strong feminist and she hated the Meninist, men's right activist kind of things. And she went to explore that. And by the end of it, she was a men's right activist. Spoiler alert.
That actually sounds familiar. I feel like I have heard of this. I haven't seen it, but I've heard of it.
So if you have a chance to watch it, do so. It's very interesting to watch. Thanks for that, Quest. But yeah, so yeah, I am trying to understand. I'm 32 years old, I think. I have 5 children and I'm still trying to figure out how women work. So I'm glad.
It's a new mystery every day with myself.
That's right. Like, what the hell is this now?
But again, that's just people. Like, men go through that too. It's just, and just to speak of what feminism has done to men, because you mentioned that before we got on the very, very, very important Sean Astin topic.
It was
it's something, and I don't want to overstep here because I'm not a man. That's not my experience, but something I've observed, because people love to talk about toxic masculinity and that's the root of the problem. But I think so much of that, and this is just a human thing. I think it comes from this very historical and still very present cultural belief that men aren't allowed to express emotion. Like, the only culturally acceptable emotion for men to express is anger. And then people yell at them. And it's like, well, what do you think is under the anger that they weren't allowed to express? And that's what's so frustrating about this feminist movement is it's like, well, if you really want to tackle this, you need to give them compassion. You can't demonize them for having feelings and wanting to be heard. And the more you force their emotions down, the more it will come up as anger, as as dominance over, as power over. And it's so funny that it's like, ladies, if we just gave them the qualities that come to us easily, like that actually is the feminine privilege in our cultures. We're allowed to feel things. We're allowed to cry. We're allowed to be upset. We're allowed to be, like I cry every day. Well, not every day, but I cry a lot, and I probably wouldn't if I were a man.
I don't.
Yeah, right. Exactly. But I bet you could if like you were in a safe space where you were allowed to feel feelings. I'm not going to make assumptions about your emotional state, but in general, if men had a safer space to actually express themselves and feel heard and acknowledged these ramifications that people are so up in arms about, I think would be a lot less severe.
Yeah. I had a very good family. And so like I always grew up with the ability to cry, with the space to, I've cried at beautiful things. Like I've done that, but it's like, it's one of those things I also just don't like doing. So I try not to.
It's messy.
But also
it's very messy.
It is messy.
Salt water in the beard. But no, it's that's what's interesting though, is men also seem to fill a different purpose a lot of times when it comes to the emotional thing. Because like my brother is way more open emotionally than I am. And it's not that I'm like closed off and I have things all around me. It's that I'm in that mindset of I'm the one who's going to take care of these things. So like when my dad died and had all of this stuff happen, I was just like stone cold there getting everything done, and everyone else was able to have their things. And then I'm like, when I get to the point where I feel comfortable doing this, I will address this myself later.
Right.
But it was like in that moment, none of them understood me. A lot of them, and I also have this thing about easing my pain with dark humor. Like that's a big thing for me. And so I was like really scared of the funeral because I'm like, I'm gonna say something, and it's gonna make me laugh, and it's gonna make me feel better, but everyone else is gonna hate me. But that was the thing. Like I served a very specific function, and I think that that's a healthy thing. It's like, yes, men should be able to embrace their emotions and that kind of part of the human person. But at the same time, we are wired to get shit done. And I think that that's also, I think that's part of like the difference between men and women in my experience. It's not that women can't get shit done, but that it's a lot easier to be able to take at least shifts in breakdown or in frustration or whatever, where one can be strong, the other can have their moment of vulnerability. And so it's a, like you said, it's a yin yang. It's
right.
a
and it doesn't mean that, I'm not saying that like, oh, men have to feel their feelings. Like you can't force anything. If you go into like feeling your feelings with a goal of like, I need to do this, then you're doing it wrong. And I want to say there's no wrong way to do it, but like trying to force yourself into feeling something, that's not what I mean. But in a sense of like when it arises, I think that men are more culturally conditioned and maybe even biologically conditioned. I don't know. I'm not an anthropologist or a biologist or whatever. I'm just observing what goes on around me. I think men are more conditioned to shut that down for the purpose of getting things done, or just because they're programmed to be like, well, there's no room for that right now. Things have to get done, But it's not to say like, oh, men have to get more in touch with their emotions. No, but like men could definitely stand to have more compassion from each other, from women, from other humans. And I think that's the point we're driving home here is like, there are always going to be differences between men and women, but we're still human. That's right. And like when it comes, just to bring it back to statism, like, statism is populated and perpetuated by both men and women. And it's a human thing. And that's what I'm going for. And I'm tired of all the categorizations and collectivism. And I don't, just let me be an individual, okay? Like, let me express myself how I want and leave me alone, and don't make me pay for things I don't want to pay for, and don't use guns to control me. I feel like that's not so much to ask for a man or a woman. Yeah.
I do want to mention Quest said Cam must have a lot of pain. He has great humor. You say it, but it's true.
Well, you know who else had I'm not saying you had a very traumatic life, but Mark Twain actually endured so much pain and suffering in his life. And look what he did with it. He was hilarious. He was like the best satirist in American history. So that's how he channeled his pain.
Beethoven was deaf, and I can never like escape that fact. Like the man who couldn't hear anything wrote the Ninth Symphony. Like you have to understand pain at a certain level to reach beauty like that. I think, you know, and I definitely recommend everybody watch Immortal Beloved. That's the fictional movie telling of Beethoven's story.
Ooh, nice.
He's an amazing person. You guys should look into him.
And I will say that if you want to grow up to be, I don't know how it works with women, they might be different, but if you want to grow up to be a funny man, you either have to be the scrawny runt or, like me, the portly lad, who people would decide to try to throw stuff at me, and I was like, oh, I'm about to destroy you with my words. It helps. If you want to be funny, I've always thought that it was weird that people say, well, if you want to be funny, you have to have pain. And I think that there's some truth to that, but then there are those people who are like, I want to be a comedian, better do some heroin.
Right.
Like, what are you doing? No, don't do that.
Right.
My dad did that for me. I don't have to. I can just be the fat kid, and I'm fine with that. I've been, at some point, my little impressions of Donald Trump have become legitimate hand motions that I do. And I'm not happy. I'm not happy with it.
Right. Dude, you have no idea how many times a day I say, come on, man. Like, I'm like, oh, stop, Carey. I can't get it out of my head. And for years it was, what difference at this point does it make? Like, I would always say that to myself, just like in my day-to-day life. And I still think of it, but I'm like, oh, get it out. You have like sociopath reptilian dialogue in your head. You're talking to yourself in their language. But it's still funny because I'm like making fun of them in my head. But still, it's funny how we pick things up like that.
Well, for me, every time someone mentions China, I go, China. Because most people try to go, China. But he's not saying China. He's saying the second half of the word vagina. China. And you need to if you want to do a Trump, you got to throw that G in there, that soft G that's not in front of the word GIF. It's not a GIF. I'll fight you over this. So you're not doing so I thought when I looked at the Anti-Media website, there were still stories that were coming up there.
There might be. So we aggregated stories. I thought that they had stopped even doing that in the last year or so, but I know that right after we were banned, they continued to aggregate stories from around the web, because what we had tried to do, in the final phase of Anti-Media, not knowing what was the final phase, we had tried to build a website that it was sort of a hub for independent media and independent news. So it wasn't just our content. We were trying to be a platform just to share other reporting, other news organizations. So I think the site is still oriented that way. It'll be like our news, their news, your news, or something. Yeah. And so I think it would have come up under, if you saw it, it would have been under like their news, because I think they were still posting things, but I'd be surprised if they were still doing it. Good for them if they are. But it's definitely, it's no original content from us.
Okay. Yeah. The last one was from April 23rd. It was from antiwar.com, which you should be reading anyway. I mean, Scott Horton is one of the most fun people I've talked to.
He's the best. He's brilliant. He's so knowledgeable, so relatable. Like the way he explains very complex information. I saw him speak in Texas at Float Fest just last month, and it was incredible. He was just talking about like inflation and war and how the two are related. And I was like, I mean, I've worked for FEE. I was an editor for FEE for Anti-Media, and I got such a good education in economics, but the way he explained it was just like, it was riveting and enlightening. And I'm like, I just want to read Scott Horton all the time. He's brilliant.
Yeah.
Yeah. FEE, I didn't know that you were involved with FEE, but they are like a huge white pill for me a lot of times, because I'll see, I had, as a leftist, a very negative view of the state of the world. And, it's overpopulated. Right. Oh, all the forests are burning down. And FEE does a really good job of putting things in perspective and understanding that we're actually like at the best time of human history for humans ever. Follow FEE, and hopefully they're still putting out. I haven't read an article from them in a while, but they're
very active.
When I was first walking away from leftism, that they were a huge stepping stone for me, and I'm very grateful to them.
Yeah, me too. I mean, they gave me a job too, Yeah. And it was great because actually their director of content, his name's Dan Sanchez. Look him up. He's wonderful. He's brilliant, great writer, powerful writer. He had written for Anti-Media, and that's how I got connected to them. He wrote some very hard-hitting pieces on war and imperialism and the police state. And so that's how I got connected with them. But the cool thing about FEE is it was started by a man named Leonard Reed, I think in the 40s, and he was a hardcore statist. And he was working for some government bureau, I think in California, I could be wrong, but somewhere working for a bureau, and he met a businessman. And like in one conversation, this businessman blew his mind about government and economics, and he ended up founding FEE. And his famous essay, I Pencil. Now, I think this is true. I think I fact-checked it. I was told this by someone who worked for FEE, but you have to fact-check it yourself. Apparently, he came up with the idea for I Pencil when he was on shrooms. So he was having this psychedelic trip, and it just occurred to him, oh my goodness, it's this like interconnected web of human behavior, and it's beautiful and positive. And that's why I brought it up, because they are so much oriented toward like, well, what's the good and what works, what doesn't work, but what's working, what creates wealth. And so, yeah, Dan Sanchez is awesome. I just saw Quest comment. Yeah, check him out, check FEE out. They have a lot of great educational content that's just very relatable. Oh, I love John. Yeah, he was one of my bosses. He's amazing. And Brad came on after me, I think, but he's a great writer too. So check them out, because it's not just doom and gloom. It's very much solutions oriented, and it's also so essential, because really you see all of these big government policies and it stems from economic ignorance. And it's, that's kind of mean to say like, oh, well, if you disagree with me, you're just ignorant of economics, but like so many of the policies that actually cause harm and they place the biggest burden on poor people and keep them poor and prevent them from upward mobility, they stem from well-intentioned ignorance, really.
Yeah.
And so at this point, I'm sure that you're getting hungry and want to make yourself dinner. So I almost forgot, but she said white pill. And that's the big question of our show is right now we live in a world that everyone perceives as dark and destructive and awful. And there are a lot of black pilled people out there, but we are white pill people. We believe in sharing white pills, even if they're small ones, personal ones that you can microdose. Like that is our push. And so I always go through this explanation, but is there something either in your life, it doesn't have to be macro, government, global, etc. Is there something in your life, something politically, something you're seeing in the world right now that you would consider a white pill, something that you would consider sharing with our audience and to give them that little bit of hope that they may need to keep pushing forward in their life?
Yeah, I'm going to go with something personal, because all I ever talk about is politics. And what I want to share is, we were talking about like these qualities of compassion and kindness and care, and like how that is probably, you can hold those things and feel those things at the same time you're not giving way to status and, violent aggressors and blah, blah, blah. But I want to share how I got to that, because it didn't start with me looking out at the world and being like, oh, I need compassion for these people. It actually started with myself. So I'm sure many people can relate to this. Like, my inner dialogue was not nice. I was very mean to myself. If you pause on it at any given moment throughout your day and you hear the way you talk to yourself, chances are there's going to be like some meanness in it. There's going to be some like denigration, really. Yeah, exactly. We all have very busy minds, and a lot of the time they're telling us you're not enough, you're wrong, you're bad, you're stupid, how dare you, and I've struggled with this a lot. And this has nothing to do with government or statism. And I love my parents and they love me, but like, we're human beings and suffering is a part of life. So I just want to share that I went from a place of like, not just like not caring for myself and not loving myself, but like actively hating myself. Like being like, you suck as a person, Carey, and you are not deserving of love. Like, I went from that place, which was very miserable. And I'm sure a lot of people can relate to that. I know I'm not alone in feeling that way. It is possible to be kind to yourself and to cultivate compassion and care for yourself. And I think this is so essential, not only because it'll help us be kinder to other people and that'll help us build the world that we want to see, but first and foremost, because you deserve it. Because you're a human being deserving of love. And I know there are going to be people who are like, no, I'm not, like they're like their knee-jerk reactions and be like, no. And some people aren't, but the reason you might feel that way is probably because they behave in a way that actually stems from a lack of self-love. And it's not their fault that they were raised that way. Like, I received certain messages growing up that made me believe, well, I don't deserve love. I'm not enough. And I just think that it's so in line with our philosophy, self-sustainability, caring for yourself in the material world. Why would you not care for your emotional world? You know? And like, it's not fun to live in a world where you're at war with yourself, you know? And no, we're not talking physical aggression, but when you're constantly just like, when you can't accept yourself, it's really hard to find acceptance externally. And I'm not saying I'm like happy every second of every day. Absolutely not. I was in such a mood filming. It's like having a tantrum with myself. Like, I was like, I can't do this. And then I had to pause and be like, okay, like, what's going on here? Let's feel our feelings. Like, and I get sad. I get frustrated. I'm not saying these feelings never occur, but it is absolutely possible. And I'm saying I've struggled with anxiety, depression, like just like really dark, difficult feelings. And I'm just saying it's possible with practice and care to cultivate a sense of peace and acceptance in your life. And that, again, doesn't mean you're always going to be happy. There are going to be difficult emotions, but when you're able to cultivate that deeper sense of care and alignment with yourself, those difficult emotions are a little bit easier, not easier, but you're able to bear them without identifying as much with them because you know they're not you. And I'm saying all these things and it's like a very nice word salad, but for some tangible advice on this, I highly recommend podcasts by a woman named Tara Brach. It's Brach. She's not an anarchist. She's not a libertarian. So you can practice compassion if she says status things. That's what I have to do. But she's really good at breaking down what I'm talking about in a very accessible and just loving way. And she's funny and she has little jokes and stories. And she's just, it's really hard like to be mean to yourself when she's walking you through it. Because eventually, like, the meanness will come up as she's walking you through it. And then she walks you through that, you know? So it's just, you can go to her website, tarabrach.com, and scroll her podcast. You'll probably find something that resonates and just check it out and go from there. And if you think like, if you do a podcast and you're like, I still hate myself, that's okay. Like, that's fine. Just keep trying and know that you're not wrong for feeling this way. You're not bad. I'm sure there's probably a very good reason you have this belief about yourself. And it's also possible to cultivate compassion for that without letting it run the show and like be in the driver's seat. So that was a very long-winded way of saying like care for yourself emotionally. It is possible to do. And I'm living proof because I came from a very, 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 very dark place. And I actually, like, I like life now. And I still get sad and I still cry, but I think it's worth it. And I have cultivated at least enough like remedial skills. I'm still very new to this work, but I at least have enough skills to care for myself when I'm having a hard time. And I think that's really essential in the bigger picture as well, not just for yourself, but for changing the world.
Yeah. Well, I just have to say, we think you're wonderful.
I think you guys are wonderful too.
It was one of those things that like, I like I said, I'd seen your face on things. And then I was like, I need to watch some of her videos because I haven't watched or listened to like anything for a long time. Cause did I mention the number of children that I have?
Yeah, you got a reason.
And so, you know, sitting down today and I was just like, damn, this, I get it. I get this. I get why she's popular. I get this. So I have a stupid video that ironically, not really ironically, I don't guess, but it ties into our conversation in such a beautiful way. So I want to play that. But after we watch that, I'll tell everyone where to find you, where to find us, and all the rigmarole. But there are these old videos, I thought about them today, of a guy who goes through like Yahoo Answers or Quora posts and looks at different ways people have asked questions in like the dumbest way possible. And so, so this is one of the good ones, but it's a lot of people who don't understand the female body. And I just feel like that ties in so perfectly. So this is this guy looking up Yahoo Answers about pregnancy.
Am I pregnant? Am I pargant? Am I gregnant? Am I pegnate? Help? Is there a possibility that I'm pegrant? Am I pregnant or am I okay? Could I be pregnant? How do I know if I'm prengan? Can I be pregnant? Can oo get pregante? Can oo bleed while oo are pergert? Can oo down a 20-foot water slide pegnat? How can I get my GF pregnant? What happened when get Perginat? How can a 9-year-old get pregnant? Will I get pregnant? What is the best time to sex to become pregnant? Does anyone know how many teens get pregnant a year? Are these systems of being pregnant? Girlfriend ain't had periods since she got pregat. Is it possible having sex to a 8 months pregnant? If a woman has starch marks on her... Wait. If a woman has starch masks on her body, does that mean she has been pregnant before? Period, question mark. I circle as normal, but yet I still don't get pregnant. What can I use? Period, question mark. Has anybody got pregnant by just pre-cum while using birth control? Did most women feel pregnant before find out? I am pregnant last 5 weeks, so can I start sex? Danger ops, pregnant sex. Will it hurt baby top of his head? Me and my boyfriend are trying to get pregnant, and haven't took my birth control in 12 days. 38 plus 2 weeks. Pregnant? I think my dog is pregnant. Can I get pregnant if he had a condom on? How long can Ugo being pregnant to get an abortion? I think I'm pregnant with my 14th child.
I just like to remind everyone that these people vote.
Democracy is a sham. So with that, if you want to find the beautiful, wonderful Miss Carey Wedler, she is on Twitter. She doesn't use it much, but she's there at Carey_Wedler. She's also on Instagram at Carey Wedler, no underscore. And if you want to watch her wonderful videos, just search her name in YouTube. CareyWedler. She's wonderful. Thank you for coming on our show.
Thank you so much for having me. Oh, my cheeks hurt.
You were invited back anytime. I'll probably try to abuse this relationship. I just want you to know that.
Sounds good. It was great chatting with you guys. You guys are awesome. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
I'll talk to you soon. Nice to meet you too. Bye.
Bye.
All right. Are you okay, Jessica?
I'm legitimately like, I have human tears in my eyes. Like,
I have 2 more of those videos, and I think I'm going to use them for the next 2 shows because they make me so happy.
Purging on.
So,
guys, don't forget to like and subscribe since you're here. If you want more of this, if you want us to get you purging on, you have to subscribe.
Oh God, I love it. If you want to find me on Twitter at Cam Harless, if you want to find this 12th century peasant on Twitter at Soup Canarchist, we have a locals. It is not exciting yet. It could be if you joined. I put it's like $2. Like I made it as cheap as possible. I would love to make some money, but that's not the point. The point is I want to hang out with you people, and I want to do it in a place that I don't get zucked. So if you want to do that, join us there. We also have t-shirts, which look at this. It's a tank top. Look at that.
It's so Florida, man.
Oh, dude, I'm just going to lean into it. I'm not going to lie to you. When I got to Florida, one of the first things I did was go, I need shorts. I don't have any shorts. Those jeans have holes in them. Jorts.
So you have to get the armhole cut all the way down to the very bottom of the shirt.
No, I'm not going to do that.
What makes it a truly Florida man tank top?
Not once, not never. If you want, I need to show you that video if you don't know that one. I've got to remember that. If you want to listen to us instead of watch us, that's dumb. Watch us instead. It's so much more fun. But you can go to wearethemadOnes.com and listen there, any podcatcher, or you can listen to our show, the rest of the great liberty-minded podcasts on the planet, and our 4 other original shows over at mlganetwork.com. Subscribe to us on YouTube. Hit the bell icon so that you're going to see what I put on Twitter. But if you hit the bell as soon as I put up the next episode, you're going to see it pop up and say, "Hey, Cam put something up for live." Do that. That's youtube.com/themadOnes. We're also on Odyssey. I share the link every week in the show notes. It's much easier to do because it has my old Twitter handle as the handle on that. I don't love it. I'll give you links. Beyond that, we have a wonderful sponsor in Lorenzotti Coffee. Tell the people about how delicious these beans are. Are you drinking them right now?
I am. I know it's 11 o'clock at night, but the beans just smell so good that I am literally endangering myself from not getting a good night's sleep because I want to drink this coffee. And like legitimately, even if they weren't our sponsor, I only bought some of that coffee because we were going to sponsor them, and I didn't want to sponsor something that I hadn't tried before. But when I got the coffee, I was legitimately excited about how good it was. I'm like, I'm so proud to sponsor this coffee. And I'm probably one of their best customers now at this point. So
wonderful. So Lorenzotti.coffee, and use at checkout, the last stage, use promo code the Mad Ones. And if I have bare arms, will I get pregnant? Put the promo code in, the Mad Ones. And so coming up, this next week starts May. And May is Friend Month. First episode of that month is May 5th, which is your girl Jessica's birthday. And so we're going to have a libertarian pillow fight. We're going to have canned wine. It should be exciting. Freckles and Britt are going to join us for that. Following that, we're going to have some more friends on the Sunday on the next episode with Tetsui and Allie. And I have a special surprise that I'm going to do during that episode that I think should yield funny shit. We'll see. After that, we have Miss Monica Perez, followed by Brad Binkley, who is just a peach of a man. And so with that, dear listeners, do you have anything you'd like to say to them before we go?
you got it all.
All right. So with that, dear listeners, be the glitch you want to see in the Matrix.